Good afternoon. I'm going to try to explain something that's, I think, a quandary to most people. And I'm going to say that the best example of what I'm going to explain comes from the movie Golden Compass. And understanding what took place in the movie is about basically imperialism, which was at that point called the magisterium. These were the people who created addiction, which is most likely a neuro-linguistic dictate. In other words, everybody obeys and everybody's governed and their thinking is done for them. That would be the forced cooperative of what is now legalized terrorism, which is pretty much what runs the court systems of the world. So as I explain this to you, I'm going to make certain designations, such as the idea of the demon. Now, the demon, which is actually a spiritual content that was evilized, in other words, made to look bad centuries ago. That would be like me depicting for you, or if I put a little angel on one of your shoulders and I put a little image of a devil on the other shoulder, and these little guys are going to blow smoke in your ears and say, oh, this is good, and on the other shoulder, this is bad. So you're caught in an enigma. Now, what is an enigma? It's basically something that, in theory, has no solution because it's a differential based on decision. Are you going to make it real, and thus it becomes fact, or are you not going to make it real, so facts don't appear as reason? In other words, simply said, your feeling direct knowing keeps going, you compare, you make decisions, not judgments. In our world that we live in, the magisterium, Golden Compass, where the demons in the movie live outside their body-brain continuum, in other words, outside the body. So they're walking alongside them as the male-female counterpart, which all humans are born with, i.e., the zygote is always female, then it turns to either male certain points of the life, which is probably most likely based on evolutionary demands and needs. Now, it's way beyond most people's thinking, because everybody's tied to the symbolic nature or the iconic nature of what's called connotation, denotation, dictatorials. In other words, all the words in our head that make us think and do what we do. So anyway, back to the magisterium, where you see the young kids that come into the picture. Their demon, i.e., the animal that is shaping, that would be the little devil, whatever it is, speaking in one ear, to make the conscious brain do what it does in reality. So how does that work? The demon is what we think based in a feeling content. And the feelings are so dynamic because they are instinctual. And when they fade, the person becomes stronger. When the person isn't stronger, the demon is stronger. And the demon is not a bad demon or a devil. It is a compliant counterpart of the sense split that happens when we enter the symbolic world. In other words, we're trading a made-up real. In other words, we're going to name a tree a green tree, and it's not green, it's not a tree. The tree, and whatever it is, the eyes call it a color. All right, it's very impressive. So that color we call green is one of many, many made up variations of what the eye sees. So, when you think about everything that we've branded and named and coined and built and sell to people as a green tree. Now, if you're in a desert, never seen a green tree, people can talk all day until you're blue in the face. That's not going to mean a thing. So you have to rely on your instincts to know what a tree is. And if you want to remember what you see as a distinctive color, then we share that as a routine description. However, if somebody called it a thingamajig, and everybody in that circle, same thing, agrees like, okay, it's a thingamajig, that's what it ends up being. Now, that's in the small communal colonies that were developing centuries ago. They had their own language, their own customs. Now, those are ethics today because it's been changed. Now, imagine customs, it just meant what everybody else did. Those were their ethics. Well, it's pretty antiquated, but nevertheless, still used. And then we have this moral compass. Right? What are morals? What are the old Greek terms for morals? Do you know? It's habit. Our habits are called morals. Now, if we have some nasty habits, and we're all nasty, we have some nasty morals. How many people want to believe that? See? Belief. What is belief? I'll tell you what. If I force you to do what you do, that's forced cooperation. And if you're intimidated by what I tell you, what is that? That's going to be a very unique fear, isn't it? Yeah. Because if I have 100,000 people that agree with me, does that make me right? No. But it makes me powerful, right? The more that agree with you in the academic circle, oh, you're pretty powerful, aren't you? Give yourself what? Color? Color of law. Right, you're all paid off to be what you are, who you are, and your fear is losing your license, losing your credentials. And don't you think you will be excommunicated if you don't keep that agreement? Yeah, backdoor stuff. Yeah, all compliant. Politics, religion, hello. All backdoor. Are we getting this? This is not complicated. So back to the magisterium. This is our governments of the world that control us, rule us through taxes, fines, and penalties. In the movie, as the demons shaping, in other words, that would be their feelings about things, shared, in other words, it's a memory, a passive memory, shared to the active memory, which is symbolic. In other words, we obey symbols. Hats, badge, stripes, robes. And when you saw the demons of the magisterium, what'd you see? You saw an owl. Very unique kind of wisdom. You saw a snake. Right? A snake. Right? Sneaking through the grass. All these are symbols. Symbolic. And the snakes weren't as smart as the owl. Two forms of degradation to the human species on a powerful level. Now, if you're getting this, and you realize that Lyra, the child who led them, very biblical, and she knows this stuff called dust, which flows through the demon into the human species, the spirit of the human species. So what are we getting at here? Cut to the chase. Peace of mind and serenity, which is individualism, the ability to think outside somebody doing your thinking for you under forced cooperation. Right now, the entire world is under legalized tyranny. Legalized. We say this because people went to school to learn a jargon that feeds the iconic brain, i.e. just the eyes and the ears, memory. It's neocortex. Science already knows what I'm saying in greater detail if they want to be honest with everybody. But right now it's slippery, slimy magisterium. Now I can explain it to you in detail. We're approaching 10-minute mark. Time to say, cut it off. So here's the chase. The middle ground, everything that's in the now that we feel is misunderstood, misnamed, misappropriated for power of a few individuals. And I'm going to detail it in my book. Go to JAMESBEYOR.com. Go to my website. I'll explain it to you in detail. All my narratives are a puzzle. I put it together. You can put it together. Take care. Talk to you later.